We will call to order.
Oh, there he is.
We will call to order the canvass of the returns and proclamation of results of the November 6, 2018 general election held in the city of Chicago. Good morning. My name is Marisel Hernandez. I'm the chairwoman. Seated to my left is Commissioner Jonathan Swain, and to my right is Commissioner William Kresse. Next item on the agenda is the consideration of the tabulated statement of the returns and proclamation of the results of the canvass of the election returns for the November 6, 2018 general election held in the city of Chicago. Is there a motion to approve and adopt the statement of the returns and proclamation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is, okay. Is there any further business before the board at this time? If not, then is there a motion to adjourn?
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Madam Chair of the Legal Counsel, in the discussion portion under here, is there opportunity for public comment?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Is there anybody here? I did not receive any requests for public comment. There is none. And so is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you. Thanks. Okay. Next, we're going now to
We need
proceed
sign these
with
in open
our
session.
regular meeting.
It doesn't have to.
Okay. We will call to order the regular board meeting of the Board of Election Commissioners for the City of Chicago. Good morning. My name is Marisel Hernandez. Seated to my right is Commissioner William Kresse, and to my left is Commissioner Jonathan Swain. Next item on the agenda is the consideration of the agenda. Are there any suggested changes? If not, we'll proceed with the approval of the regular board meeting minutes of October 23rd, 2018. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes and the minutes are approved. Now we'll proceed with the Executive Director's report. Mr. Goff.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'm glad we have a quick report from Equip for Equality. They had over 200 people out on the street on Election Day, and I think Bebe will tell you it went very well.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good to see everybody.
Likewise.
Just a reminder, my name is Bebe Novich. I'm with Equip for Equality. I'm the Voting Access Manager. And I bear repeating for some that what we do is we work with your staff to assess and improve physical accessibility of polling sites for people with disabilities. We do this primarily through an electronic survey, which people do on their own smartphones and tablets, although there's a paper alternative too. And that survey was designed, it began from a checklist that was designed by the U.S. Department of Justice, but your staff and we have done some embellishments, I think very effective embellishments, to make it get better data and more accurate data that's easier to sort of crunch and put together. And one of the things Equip does is, besides putting this survey together and making it electronically available, is we amass lots and lots of volunteers to survey polling places. We use volunteer lawyers from our pro bono partners, volunteers from our corporate pro bono partners, and volunteer law students. And the volunteer law students really came out this year in droves. It was phenomenal.
How many did you have in total volunteers?
We had more than ever before. We had, including our staff, and our staff is fairly small. We have about 275 total volunteers. So 240 outside people just volunteering to do this. And I think part of that was because there was an awful lot of interest in this election, but part of it also was the law schools really were pushing this. Northwestern Law School and Chicago Kent Law School are giving their students the day off, specifically to do service activities like this.
Great.
And I think it's been great. Northwestern gave us 100 volunteers. Most of them, unlike past years, I'm pretty new to this, but I think in past years most people have worked alone. Most of the volunteer teams worked in partners. And there's not a one-to-one relationship between how many people are working and how much data you get, but I think it's better data, because you have two people there who've been trained, one person can do the recording, one person does the measuring. So I think it was very effective. We did over 500, somewhere around 540 surveys of polling places. We're still going through we have to check them, and we really have to go one by one to check and make sure the data is accurate. But we know we got that many surveys responded to with our volunteers, and a couple of observations that we found. We are working on some connectivity problems that people had. People managed to find other ways to take care of the data, but sometimes there are connectivity problems, especially at schools, because the areas you have to go into don't have fantastic internet access. But we always provide them with a paper survey so that they don't lose any data. They can always put stuff in paper, and that's what they did. But one observation was clear, and that is that in the polling places, the election judges and the election coordinators were very welcoming. And people that had done this before noticed a huge improvement in their awareness of why we were there and what we were doing, and their welcomingness of our surveyors. So they were very helpful. They were very open to suggestions if there was something that somebody noticed that could be changed. Always changed it. So that's about your training, and that went very well, obviously, because that's been a great improvement. And we have worked extremely well with your staff. Your staff has been very responsive and wonderful. I can't say enough about Lance and Adam and Deborah Moss and Brandon, who's here, I think, too, and Clint Hurd. They've really just given us everything we need. So we're going to go through to check accuracy of data, and then we're going to design some reports with the Board of Elections folk, and then we're talking about the next elections coming up, what we're going to do for that. So it's been a very good experience, and we've definitely seen improvement as we've gone forward over the last 2 years.
Great. Well, thank you, and we look forward to the report.
Good.
Just offhand, have we received any feedback from our friends at the U.S. Department of Justice?
Not yet. We're setting up a meeting to talk about it with them. I don't think they don't have our data yet, so we're going to talk about it at that meeting. It'll be in the next couple of weeks.
Commissioners, will also be amending the settlement agreement with the Department of Justice based on the accomplishments we've already had and, of course, the distance we still have to go.
And I take it they are satisfied with what we're doing.
They are. They have. I don't think they've heard all the good news yet from this election. I mean, we made a lot of accomplishments this time. Thank you very much, Equip for Equality. And we're certainly not all the way there, but when they see this, we've made substantial efforts, and what we really did, the big transformation for this election is the administrative system with the training for the judges, the new guidelines, the checklist, the manual. We now have a system in place that will keep accessibility going into the future, and now it's just a matter of, finding the locations. So they've been very happy so far. This has been our best election under the settlement so far.
Excellent.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That was some good news. Meeting with Charles on Thursday, we're going to set up a debriefing. We want to do it as soon as possible so nobody forgets what went right or what went wrong. So we're going to have that debriefing this Thursday. We hope to put together notes for the board members. There's some modifications we're going to do. We may have to move some personnel around, but I think we'll be in good shape. And basically, that's all I have for the board members now.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Holliday, good morning.
Madam Chairman, Commissioners. First, I would like to thank Joan Agnew and Ron Boyd and the staff at the warehouse for their assistance with the obvious discrepancy in the 5% retally. So by the end of the workday today, I'll have a full printed report. As you know, yesterday was the last day to file nominating petitions, so we have a total of 243. Also, I want to thank Brandon and his drivers for assisting with the transportation of the petitions to the printer to be printed, and Jesse Williams, who sat overnight with them while they were doing our work. And because of that, we have extended our public viewing hours starting today, Monday through Fridays, 9 to 8 p.m., Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 6. We've set up 53 laptops in the lower level conference room for the overflow. The staff is beginning to clean up work from the November election and beginning to put things in place for February election. As you can see, we have construction of our conference room C in the corridor there. The building has, they want to do some modification and some beautification of some of the floors. They've started on 22, so now they're down here, and it's scheduled to be completed by December 3rd. So hopefully we will have a room available in the event we need extra space for our hearing officers for hearings.
Just a real quick comment on that. They created about 15 new office spaces that we can rent out. So I think we'll have enough for hearing officers to do what they have to work on. So I think we'll be all right. And these guys are really fast. I'd like to hire them to do some work for me.
No
They
kidding.
do house remodeling.
I can only.
Thank you.
I just make one comment, Mr. Holliday, having watched from this side the first time the whole petition filing process. I think your staff did an excellent job across the board. It was consistent. Everyone was consistent. They were well trained, well managed. You know, I had not again seen the festivities from this side, but I just want to commend your staff. I thought it was well run and well handled and the like. So
Yep, I agree.
Thank you.
Yes,
I
definitely.
will relay that to Christopher.
please do.
Mr. Allen,
Good morning.
good morning.
It's very good that we're turning the page on the 2018 election because all focus has already turned to 2019. So, but just to quickly go over some highlights that I sent to you earlier. The vote by mail, we've been talking about that for a month, set a record. So Steve and his crew deserve a good round of applause. We had an 87.4% return rate. You can hope for 70. For a midterm, it's usually 60 to 75%, so 87% is astounding. Another half of those 12% who did not return their ballots, voted in person at early voting and election day. So overall, the participation rate among those who applied to vote by mail is astounding. We had just over 1% of all ballots cast were provisional ballots, about 9,000. And roughly 40% of those counted partly or entirely. The participation was up in every age group, but for ages 45 and up, all the way up to 75 and up, you're talking about 15 to 24% increase, whereas 44 and younger in those different age groups that ranged upward anywhere from 45 to 95% higher turnout than 4 years ago. So the question of will the millennials ever turn out for a midterm has been answered, and it is a resounding yes. The provisional database is up on the website. We're beginning to flip all of the website pages to content relative to the February election. I might mention that of the statistics that we gave out, and Commissioner Swain took a lot of interest in these, I know. The participation rates have shifted over the last few elections, and that the turnouts are heavier, much heavier than they ever were before on the north side as opposed to the south side. It used to be the opposite, but since 2015 really, this election, it really came home. If you look at the numbers from the 42nd, 47th, 44th, 46th, 40th wards, some of those turnouts were 70 and 80% and higher in various precincts. So that, and tomorrow we activate the online vote by mail application system for the February election. So things are well underway. That's all. Oh, there's one other item. We have worked out, and I checked with Adam on this, plan 4 meetings ago or so. Commissioner Kresse had asked about doing some kind of of test audit on the vote by mail signature verification process. We worked out with vote by mail department and IT department a non-intrusive way to gather records from the Agila system, the scanned images of the envelopes that the voters return their ballots in, so that we can do a test audit without,
Without the actual
without
envelope.
opening up any of the records as far as the actual envelopes or the ballots. We won't be disturbing those. So we can do a 2% audit of those, which is not required by state law, but we think given the magnitude of early vote or vote by mail and how we hope it continues to grow, this is a prudent course. So we hope that's okay with you.
Yes?
Definitely.
Okay.
And that's all.
Okay, thank you. We'll now proceed to old business. Infrastructure projects and changes in election administration as well as voting equipment. We'll be dealing with that right after the February election and runoff. With respect to electronic poll books, I believe that worked out very well. Judd, good morning.
Good morning. I would agree. I thought we had a pretty good day on election day. And so we're meeting with Mr. Holliday and his staff tomorrow to kind of recap and go over the election. And then similar to what Mr. Allen said, we'll be setting our sights on February election as well. So
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Is there legislation?
No updates to report on legislation.
Okay. We'll now proceed to new business, and the first item on the agenda is a motion to authorize the approval of outside counsel to serve as electoral board hearing officers for the February 26, 2019 municipal general election. Mr. Lasker?
Well, we have heard back from all of our returning hearing officers, from a good number of them, very happy and eager to serve again. And also with thanks to many people, the commissioners and our staff members, and we've recruited a good batch of 18 new hearing officers to help bolster the total staff to about 42 hearing officers. We have a training session coming up this Thursday when we did confirm attendance for everybody. I've been working with Barb Goodman to create basically a training curriculum. We had always had annual briefings. We'll have an annual briefing in the afternoon for all of the hearing officers, but also now a training session in the morning for the new ones, in hopes that they can get off started on the right foot. Looks like we've got a good crew. I'm looking forward to seeing the old ones back and to getting to know the new ones.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to authorize, is there a motion to approve outside counsel to serve as electoral board hearing officers for the February 26, 2019 municipal general election, from November 27, 2019 through April 30th, 2019, at the rate of $200 per hour, and authorize the executive director to execute those contracts.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We also have a professional service agreement between the Chicago Board of Elections and Deborah K. Moss.
Deborah Moss has been, did you want to?
You can both chime in. You go first.
Deborah Moss has been working diligently with the board on accessibility, compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, and of course the Help America Vote Act. She really has stepped up, done a tremendous job. There's a lot of data involved, and it takes a lot of patience and organization to get through all that data, condense it for us, analyze it for us. She's been attending the meetings and also coming up with great ideas. She's helped draft the accessibility guidebook that went out to all the precincts, and helped us create the checklist and manage all of that, and really has been doing tremendous work. So we are proposing that we keep her around for another year as we continue on this endeavor with the Department of Justice. She's certainly proven to us that she's a valuable asset.
I'm just to let you know that I went to Adam to get this contract extended. The folks from Equip for Equality like working with her. Patrick Johnson from Justice Department, he likes working with her. In fact, he calls her up. So I think she's very, very, very important to this project. So I'm encouraging board members to sign on to this extension.
I can speak for her. I have very much enjoyed working with Deborah, and she is like the backbone of how we work, of how Equip works. And I went on a site visit, kind of a training site visit with her, and I thought she was incredibly committed to getting the right information, and she knew what she was talking about. She's really gold.
Well, given that, if there are no further questions, is there a motion to approve a professional services agreement with Deborah Moss to serve as the board's accessibility compliance specialist at a rate of $60 per hour, not to exceed $109,000 over the term of the contract, which is from January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes and the contract is approved. And thank you, Deborah. Now, we will proceed with the next item on the agenda, which is the legal report. Mr. Lasker?
Thank you. I also did want to echo the comments to the petition filing crew with Chris Tomachek, Mike Check, sitting next to me, had a big part to do with it too. The staff really, took the training well, and I think did a very professional job at accepting the nomination papers. I've mentioned that we've got the electoral board hearing officer training coming up this week. We have an objection filing deadline of December 3rd, and it always amazes me that the statutory ballot certification deadline is December 20th, just 7 days later. Because of all the service requirements, we can't start our hearings until December 10th, so we'll have 10 days to finish up those hearings, which I doubt is going to happen. But we will be diligently marching these cases forward. Once again, for the public to hear, we will be setting strict briefing schedules, evidence cutoff deadlines. We will give as much time as possible to the parties to give as much due process as possible, but these cases have to happen fast when you think about that tight turnaround on that schedule. Other than that, just trying to keep on swimming through 2 elections. I'm glad we're done with November, and let's head on to see how any of these 21 mayoral candidates stay on the ballot and have an exciting February 26th.
Adam, I have one question with respect to pro se litigants.
Yes.
Is there anything you're contemplating to ensure we keep the briefing schedule, considering we may have a significant number of pro se litigants that may be unfamiliar with the process? It seems to me for us to, we generally provide some leniency to those that are pro se, but we have a deadline to meet. So how are you planning to manage that?
Well, it's a balancing act, right? Because we do want to give some leniency to the pro se without giving them an advantage. And so our hearing officers are certainly trained to help guide, to help show where the rules of procedure are for various aspects of the cases. We cannot have our hearing officers advocating for pro se, but we certainly do want to make sure that everybody gets as fair a trial as possible. So we have rules that set specific deadlines, but then there's also discretion among the hearing officers to schedule their cases as they deem appropriate. And time will be given where time is needed in that regard. But at the same time, everybody needs to be prepared to move fast, because we just can't have people sitting around.
Absolutely.
Yep. I would also encourage the public, do look at our website. With the statute requires the service of these objectors' petitions by certified mail and by sheriff. And neither the certified mail system nor the sheriff's office works as fast as our website. So that is the first place that the public will be able to see when and where the specific hearings are going to happen. So please do keep looking there.
Thank you. We have no financial report. I did not receive any requests for public comment at this meeting. Is there a need for executive session?
Not today.
Okay. If not, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to our next regularly scheduled meeting on Tuesday, December 11th, 2018 at 9:30 a.m. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, and we are adjourned.